Hey guys, we're back with Unwrapping the Pharaohs, lesson number 11, titled The Middle Kingdom. And the Middle Kingdom starts with the 12th dynasty of Egypt. And between the 11th and the 12th dynasty, we have a little bit of confusion, a little bit of a problem. It starts with Amenemhat, and he is the vizier, the advisor of Nebtawari. And he is working in a quarry with about 10,000 different soldiers, and he's there, gaining power and seizing, the leadership of all these men, a lot of men, and eventually he leads a coup to take the throne. We find some of this information through different artifacts and things that talked about him, and one specifically on a piece of broken bowl that was found in central Egypt in an area called Light. And some of the other artifacts and things talk about how Amenemhat the first becomes pharaoh, and he claims that he came to the throne because of two different miracles that occurred. The first is that there was this mysterious appearance of a gazelle that gave birth to a calf on the black stone that had been chosen for the sarcophagus. And because of that, and through Egyptian lore and different things, that shows that he had this right and sign to become to the throne. The other is, while he was there, the soldiers were struggling to have water to drink, and people were going to die, and he went out and searched and found a spring that just suddenly appeared to save him and his soldiers. And so that, again, is by divine right. The gods intervened and put him on the throne. Then also you have Neferti, who was a provincial governor. He was not only a provincial governor, but was an important person and was kind of a seer. And he claims to have had a vision and a prophecy that supports Amenemhat's supernatural origins to the throne. And what he claims is that in this vision, he was summoned to the court of Seneferu, the first king of the 4th dynasty. And while he was there, the king asked him to tell him about the future. And as he's describing the future, he eventually says that there's going to be a king named Amenemhat who will take control of both Upper and Lower Egypt and rule over a combined Egypt. And so therefore, he's claiming this glorious intervention by the gods to put him on the throne. Some question whether this was propaganda because of the turmoil of him leading a coup to take the throne, or if there truly was a vision. But his kingdom was called Amenemhat, which means Amun, one of the gods, is in front. And it is a starting point of putting Egypt to the front of different things, okay? He moved his capital to Light. It's between Dashur and Midam. He builds his temple there in the delta, and he builds his pyramid near the capital. He goes on several different military campaigns. As you remember, he was a leader of 10,000 military soldiers, and he goes against the Nubians in the south of Egypt. Eventually, he himself is assassinated. After him is Sesostris I. He is the oldest son of Amenemhat, and he was co-regent for 10 years. And he assumes the throne after his dad's death. He goes by a few different names, or has a few different names: Uzurtasen, Senwosret, and Keprikare. And Sesostris, though, is the primary name, and he was a great builder. And he erected at least 35 different buildings that we know of and can put to him specifically. He also had his pyramid, which was 351 feet by 200 feet at its base and was 200 feet high. He also created and commissioned several different statues of himself. During his time, he also had an advisor, a vizier, whose name was Mentuhotep. And historically and biblically, it's believed that this person was the Joseph of the Bible. And part of the reason for that is there's a lot of Egyptian records showing how much power this advisor had, pretty much to rule most of the country. And Genesis 41:40 shows that Joseph had this same power. Another curiosity, if you will, is that the Fayum Oasis, which is about 75 miles south of Cairo, there's a very large canal going from the Nile River, and to this day, that's still known as Joseph's Canal. Then you had a man named Ameni. He was a provincial governor under Sesostris I, okay? And on his tomb, he had this writing. It says in your book on page 83, one of the tombs belonged to Ameni, a provincial governor in the time of Sesostris I. On the wall of his tomb, he wrote, "No one was unhappy in my days, not even in the years of famine, for I had tilled all the fields of Nomama up to its southern and northern frontiers. Thus I prolonged the life of its inhabitants and preserved the food which it produced." Apparently, Ameni knew the famine was coming and stored the grain in readiness for the time of want. Another thing that shows that the biblical story of Joseph is true. And then you have on the island of Sahel, which is known as the Hungry Rock, they found all kinds of writings on these rocks. And they believe it was a place where people were practicing the writings. But one of the writings shows, quote, "The river god failed to come for 7 years." All of these things are proof that the Bible and Joseph are real. Some of the other things that happened with Sesostris I was he built a few small pyramids near his, one for his wife Neferi, and one for his princess, Takit. And again, he built several other buildings as well. After Sesostris was a few other kings of importance was Amenemhat II, and he has his pyramid at Dashur. However, it was horribly built. Can't even find the dimensions of it, really. They did find some jewelry and things in the tombs, but for the most part, it was unimportant. Then you move on to Sesostris II, and he had his pyramid near the village of Lahu and the Fayum Oasis. At the base of his pyramid, it's 348 feet square, and the height was 161 feet. Both of those were made from just dry bricks, like they talk about in Genesis, okay? Some other buildings that they found around Sesostris' pyramid were on the north side. He had 8 small mastabas, but there was no tomb chambers. A man named Sir Flanders Petrie started to excavate the area, and as he's looking around, he found tomb chambers. And he finds the king's sarcophagus in his red granite and rectangular brim, and it was beautifully and wonderfully made. And he also finds the papyra in which it talks about the inhabitants of the city of Palestine and Syria, which were the remnants of the Israeli slaves, the descendants of Jacob, also giving truth and light to the story that's in the Bible of Joseph and Jacob. This man, Petrie, wrote a book called 10 Years Digging in Egypt, and he also claims that there was some possible source of the Phoenician alphabet found at this site. And lastly, on this grounds, there was the tombs of the princess Sitharoznet. Not a lot of importance there. However, they did find some jewelry there as well and some gold beads, and with 95,000 or 9,500 different beads there, and it was put in the Egyptian Museum. So what we're saying, this Middle Kingdom, yes, we get some information, and it tells us some of the kings and things. The major significance that we would take from the biblical aspect is that there's a lot of evidence found in this period to support the story of Joseph in the Bible. Thanks.